Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Zone Star State podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me today is head coach of North Texas men's basketball, Ross Hodge. Coach, how are you doing? We haven't done one of these podcasts, and I think since last time you came on here. Colin and I didn't have you on until I don't know when. Did we have you on recently? I don't remember.
Not. It's been a while.
It's been a
A
while.
while.
It's been a
Yeah.
while. I got my bleed green shirt on, so
Love it,
completely biased news coverage
man.
here.
Love it. Got your
Of,
J Ham, portrait in the background.
yeah,
The March
Davion
Madness.
peeking over my shoulder. I know he loves that.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, I didn't even ask you before we got. Oh, I guess we talked about before, but when Colin and I did the rankings and stuff of all the players and stuff, and the feedback that y'all got from that, we don't even need to get into that. But just we
The
got to talk about
analogy
that.
of I think I called you and asked you what type of drugs you were on. Were you on
And,
psychedelics?
and then it was everybody was just hitting me up. It was like, oh man,
Oh, you're talking
everybody.
about the mean green person, the
Oh,
mean
the,
green
the
rank.
yes, the North Texas one. Yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
North
No,
Texas
that was
specific
epic.
one.
That was epic.
Yeah, I got everybody was texting me, asking me like, "Oh, everybody's talking about this and this." I was like, "I'm glad I could make y'all's day.
That was
I'm
an
glad I
epic.
can make
That was an
y'all's
epic day in Mean Green Twitter country for sure.
day." But let's talk about the Mean Green this year. What y'all got? Real quick. Going back to last year. Obviously, it was your first year as the head coach. Uh, for those who maybe didn't follow the team, maybe just Texas basketball fans looking on, went 19-15 overall, 10-8 in the American Athletic Conference. Y'all played through a lot of injuries. I covered the entire state, and I don't know many teams, if any, that went through the injuries that y'all went through, but still to come out plus over 500 in conference and to win a game in the NIT over LSU. Just overall, how would you assess what kind of last year was for you?
Yeah, was super proud of that group. They never made any sort of like excuses. And we did. We'd had an incredible stretch run of injury free seasons. The previous four to be exact, which ironically all coincided with winning championships. But three of those years we started the same starting lineup every single game,
Yeah.
and so you know last year I just had to remind everybody that it just stinks when it happens to you. But there were so many nights during that stretch, those 4 years, that we showed up to play at somebody's gym and their starting point guard was out,
Yeah.
and nobody really remembers it anymore. Nobody like cares. Nobody feels sorry for you. And I was just really thankful for that group last year. They never used it as an excuse. They never went into a game thinking that we weren't going to win the game despite the roster flux, and this guy's out, now this guy's out, now they're both out, now he's back and now he's out. And really just kept trying to find ways to put ourselves in position to win games and to make it to a postseason, and win a postseason game for the fourth year in a row. I think only 7 teams have done it. We're one of them. I think it's Baylor, Houston, Gonzaga, Creighton, Oregon, Kansas, and maybe and us. Yeah. So you're in a pretty lofty group of teams when you're talking about making it to the postseason. And the awesome part about it is that we have raised expectations to such high levels here, which I love and I embrace. That you go to the NIT and you beat LSU, and I think most people would say like, yeah, it was a good year. Not a
Yeah.
great year, but it was a good year, and that just speaks to how far we've came as a program. That the expectations are from us and our fan base and everyone associated with it, that you get into the NCAA tournament, you make deep runs.
Yeah. What would you say looking back on last year and just I guess throughout the year, what did you learn, I guess, the most in terms of taking over in that position and going through what y'all went through?
Um, Man, there was a lot. On the positive side, again, just how powerful staying together through adversities and weathering the storms together, and keep as a staff and as a leader of a program and as players, not taking excuses
Mhm.
as to anything, and just trying to figure out a way to win games. And for me personally, just learning how to be more comfortable delegating parts of uh the program and the coaching and the teaching, and learning how to let go of some of that stuff, and lean on your staff. And there's a lot of learning in year one. We
Mhm.
look back on it now, like in the spring, this year, we kind of would laugh and joke about it because we'd be sitting around feeling like there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
But we're still doing stuff. You're recruiting, but how chaotic it was in the spring last year when you're hiring a brand new staff. They're moving their families, they're buying homes, they're selling homes, they're in a complete learning environment. Every single person, minus not even Coach Sean Louis had different
Yeah.
roles. I mean, every single person associated with the program's in a different role, myself included. So there's a ton of learning. You're learning each other. They're coming into a program that had a lot of success, so they're trying to figure out like how much do we want to tinker and even suggest. And it's just a lot of learning and a lot of growth is how I would describe last year.
Yeah. And then over the offseason, you have a lot of roster turnover from the transfer portal. What was what was it like just navigating all of that? And obviously, we know how talented last year's team was, and then also transitioning and turning the page, and then having to go build a new team and build another team that can compete with the conference, which I think you've done.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely there was one day there's a few days, you're just like, man, this sucks.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie, you're just kind of like feeling sorry for myself a little bit. And then I was watching ESPN or something, and you see the ticker come across, and it's like, um, Duke has 5 people in the portal, and like,
Yeah.
and it just kind of shocked me back into my body a little bit. Like, look, man, every single program at every single level is dealing with this, and it's not it feels personal to us. It felt personal to me. I'm sure it felt very personal to Mean Green fans, and you feel like, man, we're alone in this. Like, man, all our players are leaving, but
Yeah.
everybody's players are
Yeah.
leaving.
Literally.
Um, and I think there was 15 all league players in the American first team, second team, third team, and only one of them is back in our league, and
Yeah.
that's Yaxel for UAB.
Yeah.
So the one thing I did appreciate, the players that decided to put their name in the portal, they were very transparent. We had very open conversations. It wasn't like they waited to the very end and hopped
Handcuffed you.
in the
Yeah.
day before the portal closes. And we were able to turn the page very quickly. We knew who was staying, we knew who was leaving, and kind of got to work. And because of the success that we've been able to have here, not only as a team, but the individual levels of success that players have had. Some of them in year one, when you look at a Tyler Perry, first team all league, Javion Hammett, first team all league, Jason Edwards was first team all league. Kai Huntsberry was newcomer of the year. Like, there's definitely tangible things that you can point to that, hey man, you can come here and have an immediate impact individually, and we can win.
Yeah.
So I think the success that a lot of those guys had, even though we were sad to see them go, it certainly helps, recruit the next guys. And those guys still love this place. I
Yeah.
mean, they come back in the summer. Tyler Perry was here yesterday. Abu Usman spent about a week on campus, in August, and they love this place, man. And they still help, even though they're going other places. And I know it can kind of feel a little like an oxymoron, is like, well, if they love it so much, well, why are they, but that's
Yeah.
different. They do love this place, and they still help us, and they were instrumental in helping us recruit the team that we have now, that we feel
Yeah.
really good about.
Yeah. I mean, even again, you look at the TBT team y'all put out every year that they build every year. It's incredible to me that and I don't Reese didn't even play this past year, but I mean, 2 years ago, Reese obviously transferred to South
Yeah.
Carolina, comes back, plays TBT. It's like
Yep.
there's definitely a brotherhood there that they feel. Let's talk about this year's team, because
Okay.
I think you have shown from last year and then this year that you've been able to put together a very, very talented groups of players. Um, we can start before we even get to the transfers. Let's start with a couple of the returners: Rondell, Matthew Stone, both return, and then you have some other pieces like Alex Cotton and whatnot that maybe you could throw in there as well. Was it big to get Rondell and Stone back, especially as two guys that have played for you?
Yeah, it was huge, man. I mean, any level of experience, and I tell you, the one that was as big as any of them that you didn't even mention was Mulai. You
Oh
know,
yeah, that's right. He's at
and
the top of the roster. I had him cropped down, but
yeah,
yeah,
no, I
that's right.
mean, Mulai started every game
Yeah.
last year, and that was his first time as a full time starter, full time understanding what the expectations of that and how that felt, and he's had an incredible summer.
Mhm.
Um, and just super thankful and appreciative of him. And then yeah, like Rondell, started games for us. Stone's been around the program, so that's the unique thing about basketball is yes, you end up having a lot of roster turnover, but you still only play with 5 people at a time. And you're probably going 8 or 9 deep. So if you can bring back 3 or 4 rotation players, that's a pretty good chunk in this environment.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've been great and had a great summer, and filled the leadership gaps, and excited about all those guys for sure.
In the portal, starting with the backcourt, Latrell Giselle, Jonathan Massey, Jasper Floyd, Atin Wright. Um, that's a group of seniors, and that's a group of talented players there. What do you just make of that group as a whole, and how good do you feel about the backcourt experience you have, and just how you built it?
Yeah, I mean that's where you probably start with, man, is just their experience level and how many games they've played. There's a maturity level amongst that group that kind of permeates through the team. Those guys have played a lot of basketball. They've had a lot of individual success, and so now it's just them kind of learning how to figure out how we're going to have success together. And the other thing I really like about that group is they've all won, and they've all won at a pretty high level. I mean, Atten, won the Missouri Valley Championship, had a big game in the conference championship game, had a big game in the NCAA tournament. Jonathan Massey's won a championship. Trell, although he hasn't played in the NCAA tournament, he was part of championship caliber teams at SFA. And
Mhm.
then Jasper Floyd won a junior college national championship and won 25 games at Fairfield and went to the CBI. So
Yeah.
they have a good grasp of what winning looks like and what it takes. And they're very excited to be here and want to figure out how we can win together.
Yeah, and then the front court is a little younger, I guess. Grant Newell's junior, Brennan Laurent is junior. Like we already talked about Mulai, and then Brock Weiss is a redshirt freshman who comes in for y'all as well from Creighton. How do you just look at that group and shaping them into how they play with the guards and just play off each other and what they do well?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that kind of jumps out to you, if you were to kind of come watch this group, is we are collectively bigger
Hmm.
and longer, and can truly play some different ways. You can play a little bigger. You can obviously certainly downsize and play like small ball 5 if you wanted to, with like Laurent and Grant, or you can, they're extremely comfortable playing the other forward spot. Brock Weiss is a guy that can stretch the floor at the 5 spot and make threes. And
Because
he's,
people didn't really see him last year. Obviously, he redshirted, so
yeah,
it's getting a
yeah. I
feel
mean,
for
he's a
him.
legit 6'11", and he's still learning. But Grant's played a lot of basketball. I mean, he was a starter in the Pac-12, played 26 minutes a game last year for Cal, and obviously Belo is one of the most high-end athletes that we've had at North Texas, and been part of a Final Four team and a culture that understands winning. And his his talent level is very high, very high.
Yeah. Did you kind of mentioned it of y'all getting bigger? Did it feel like that was something that you needed to do going into this season, just to get bigger in the front court a little bit, or maybe deeper
Not,
in terms of size?
yeah, I
Or
mean, not. I would say definitely a little deeper because I think it certainly felt if when Aaron Scott was in foul trouble
yeah,
or wasn't able to be on the floor for whatever reason, foul trouble, a little banged up or whatever, you didn't really have like that bigger forward that
yeah,
could
you had to
come
like
in and
slide
also
CJ
play.
down
Yeah,
maybe or
I
something,
mean,
and yeah,
yeah, we play, played CJ down there, play Rondell down there, play Stone
yeah,
down there, and
yeah,
they certainly can handle that against certain teams, but you know, uh having the versatility to play different lineups in different ways depending on who you're playing is something that I think everybody wants. And the other thing with like Mulai now and Belo and Grant, all those guys can really move for their size, and they have incredible switchability and versatility defensively. They can pretty much guard any position on the
mhm.
perimeter.
How do you look at, just the roster as a whole when just early on, just looking at, all right, I think we should have, my strengths as, fill in the blank there. W- Do do you look at it that way at all, or do you
No, I
just kind of
do.
like
I
the
mean, I
yeah,
do. I mean, obviously, we were still a very good border elite defense last year. I mean, I think we were 12th in points per game and second in adjusted efficiency in the league. But I think this team has the capabilities to get back like kind of where we were. And injuries played a little bit in that. That'd be
yeah,
unfair to say. I mean, that team was a very good defensive team last year as well. But when you're not playing with Ruben for 11 games, and the fatigue factor is going to drop you a little bit. But I mean, this team has the defensive capabilities to be as good as any team that we've had here because of the length and size and versatility and toughness with that. And then offensively, they can share the ball really well. And I think it was our goal that we wanted to do last year. Injuries curtailed it a little bit, but I think you saw when we were whole last year, we did a much better job of turning our defense into transition offense and playing with a little more pace on that end. And
yeah.
I think this team has a chance to turn defense to offense at a pretty high level.
I know we talked about it a lot last year, but the defensive rebounding struggles, I I know that kind of goes into being a little bigger and having a little bit more depth. Do you feel like that's going to turn into, get back to where y'all usually are in terms of at least being a capable, better
Yeah,
defensive rebound team?
yeah, that and if you look at their careers, Jasper Floyd's one of the best rebounding guards in the country. I mean,
Mhm.
he's close to 5 rebounds a game. Jonathan Massey's a very good rebounding guard.
I think
And
Matthew's a little maybe an underrated pickup for y'all.
yeah,
I,
no, he's got pop, and again, he's a guy that's played in the NCAA tournament and got really good length. And um I think we have a couple of elite guard rebounders,
mhm.
which helps your rebounding.
Yeah, for sure. Looking at the non-conference for y'all, and I know y'all haven't put up the schedule yet. Right now, y'all do have a road game at Minnesota, home game against Oregon State. You'll have the tournament, the NIT season tip-off, which all gives y'all a lot of ample opportunities to make some noise against, some high level competition there.
Man, the
Um,
one I know Luke talked a little bit before we got started, but I mean the at High Point, I mean that'll be a
yeah,
quad one game. I
yeah,
mean they'll be a top 75, top 50 team.
yeah.
Got a lot returning, and Coach Huss has done a great job with that program. So that'll definitely be a challenge as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna say is like for you building the schedule and looking into what's valuable for y'all in terms of, uh, obviously for y'all as a program, getting back to the NCAA tournament and get doing what y'all want to do. Just how do you approach the schedule building aspect of it and seeing? I know it's always hard to figure out who wants to play, who can play, and everything like
Yeah, I mean we've that's definitely something that we've kind of adopted, you know, really in that 2020 season that we were talking about, that, you know, Coach Mack wanted to do, you know, coming the year before, I think we started 16-1.
Yeah, 2019 was the not funniest year, but
legitimately probably played the worst non-league schedule maybe in the country, definitely down there. I mean, it probably was
346. I'm looking at it now.
346 out of probably 352 at the time.
Yeah, something like that. We felt good though.
Yeah,
that was early in the 10, not early, but it was early-ish in the 10 year 3.
And so coming out of that, you know, after that year, and obviously we got hurt really, really bad at the end of that year as well. But, you know, Coach Mack was like, man, forget this, man. Like, let's schedule really, really challenging non-leagues. Let's get better. Let's be at our best when it matters the most. And I think we started out 2-5 that year, maybe 6-8, 6-7 going into league. And from that time on, man, we've really wanted to try to challenge ourselves in the non-league. And, you know, I think it's paid off. I mean, even like a year like last year, you know, if you looked at our metrics, even though we were 19-15, I mean, net, you know, you're still top 75, Ken Palm top 75, you know, Bartovic, I think we were top in the 60s. And so then you get rewarded with postseason play and you get that opportunity. And, so yeah, I mean, we expect to win every game we play. We know there's going to be challenges in the non-league, but that can create growth opportunities. So there is no, like, even though there's warm and fuzzies surrounded by being like 12-0, 12-1, like there is no falseness associated with your team.
Yeah.
When you go and play at a Minnesota, Oregon State at home, Evansville at home, you know, like you're not going to be like thinking you're something, but maybe you're not, you know?
Well, it's a great example is I was there when y'all played LSU the first time in South Carolina, and it was like, all right, you could tell y'all were still figuring it out, and then you play them in the NIT on the road and blow the door. I mean, beat them pretty handily at that point. Like the progression is evident there. That's all I had. I said 20 minutes, 22 minutes. There you go, Coach. Thanks for coming on. It's always great talking with you, man.
Yeah. No, we'll do it. We'll do it again, man.
Yep. I'll tell Ish as soon as, you know, y'all gonna start the year like 10-0, first loss. I'm like, all right, Coach, come on.
If we start the season 10-0, I'll do a weekly podcast with you
guys. All right, Coach Hodge is on the pod until they lose. There you go.
All right, man.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thanks, dude.